In the small, mist-covered town of Cold Hollow, nestled deep within the mountains, a shadow loomed, one that whispered dark secrets into the ears of those who dared listen. The townsfolk knew of a malevolent clown, a figure whose painted grin belied the terror he had once wrought upon the community. This was no ordinary clown. He was a sinister being entwined with dark magic and sinister pacts, whose twisted ambition was to achieve immortality through unspeakable sacrifices. Decades ago, during the peak of the clown's reign, his malevolence reached a chilling climax. A brave man named Samuel Barker, a local hero with a fierce sense of justice, had stumbled upon the clown in the depths of the forest. There, surrounded by flickering candles and a grotesque altar, the clown prepared to sacrifice a young adult, one who would soon celebrate their 21st birthday. Fueled by a primal instinct to protect, Samuel rallied a group of courageous townsmen. Together, they confronted the clown, leading to a fierce struggle in which the clown's dark power was finally quelled. After a harrowing battle, the townsfolk captured the clown and executed him, convinced that they had rid Cold Hollow of the evil that had plagued them. They buried him in an unmarked grave, deep within the woods, placing an ancient amulet over his remains, a relic believed to trap malevolent spirits. The townspeople felt a wave of relief wash over them, believing they had successfully eradicated the darkness that had overshadowed their lives. But the clown, even in death, was not finished. As his lifeblood seeped away, he let out a final, venomous curse. He vowed that his spirit would return, not for revenge on the town as a whole, but specifically on the descendants of Samuel Barker. When those descendants turned 21, they would face his wrath. The curse would strike the bloodline of those who had dared to defeat him, ensuring that his legacy of terror would continue. For nearly a century, the Barker family lived relatively peacefully, the stories of the clown fading into mere legend. As the years went by, strange occurrences began to resurface. Townsfolk would often hear unsettling laughter carried on the wind, or they would see shadows flit by the corner of their eyes. But most dismissed these incidents as figments of imagination or mere coincidence. The year was 1995, a full 100 years since the clown's death, when a construction crew began work on a new development near the old forest. As they dug into the earth, they stumbled upon a rusted box buried deep beneath the surface. Intrigued, one worker, Jack, pried it open, revealing a decayed skeleton dressed in tattered remnants of a clown costume, with the ancient amulet resting on its chest. Without a second thought, Jack removed the amulet, oblivious to the ancient curse he was awakening. That night, Jack didn't return home. His coworkers grew worried and decided to check on him. Arriving at his house, they found it shrouded in an eerie silence. Inside, the faint scent of decaying flowers hung in the air, and a deflated balloon swayed gently by the window, creaking ominously. It was clear that something sinister had occurred, and whispers of the clown's curse began to circulate once more. In the weeks that followed, strange events plagued Cold Hollow. The Barker family, unaware of the curse that had been unleashed, began to experience bizarre happenings. Joseph Barker, a young man nearing his 21st birthday, felt a growing sense of dread enveloping him. Cold drafts swept through his room, shadows danced when no one else was around, and eerie laughter echoed in the distance. His friends dismissed his fears as mere nerves, but Joseph sensed that something terrible was approaching. The anxiety deepened when Joseph's best friend, Peter, also began to experience similar disturbances. Unbeknownst to them both, Peter was a distant relative of Samuel Barker, linked by blood and fate. On the eve of Joseph's 21st birthday, the oppressive atmosphere grew thick with tension. Determined to uncover the truth, Joseph delved into the town's dark history. He pored over old newspaper articles, uncovering the chilling details of the clown's horrific rituals and Samuel Barker's pivotal role in his downfall. The final article he stumbled upon sent a shiver down his spine. It spoke of the clown's dying curse that would descend upon the Barker lineage when they turned 21. The eerie deaths and strange occurrences in the town were not mere coincidences, but the manifestations of a malevolent curse coming to life. Realizing the gravity of the situation, Joseph sought help. The local authorities would surely dismiss his claims as delusions. He remembered the stories of an old woman named Marla, known for her deep knowledge of the occult and supernatural. Some whispered she was a witch. Others referred to her as a spiritual guide. With no time to lose, Joseph made his way to her home on the outskirts of town. Marla welcomed him into her dimly lit dwelling, her walls lined with shelves of dusty tomes and strange artifacts. As he recounted the bizarre occurrences and the history of the clown's curse, her expression grew grave. "The clown's spirit has indeed returned," she said, her voice low and filled with concern. "With the amulet removed from his grave, his curse is now fully unleashed. He will seek out those of Samuel Barker's bloodline, and he won't rest until he has claimed them." Joseph felt a chill run down his spine. "Is there a way to stop him?" he asked, desperation creeping into his voice. Marla nodded solemnly. She retrieved an ancient dagger from her shelves, its blade shimmering faintly in the dim light. "This is an enchanted weapon, passed down through generations, said to sever the connection between the clown and the dark forces that empower him. But confronting him will not be easy. He will be stronger than ever, feeding off the fear of his victims. You must be prepared to face not only the clown, but also the darkness that has empowered him for over a century." With determination, Joseph accepted the dagger, feeling the weight of history and responsibility settle upon him. Time was of the essence. Peter's 21st birthday was fast approaching, and Joseph knew the clown would come for him first. He needed to protect his friend, and he was willing to face the darkness that threatened them both. On the night of Peter's birthday, Joseph insisted that he stay with him. They fortified themselves with snacks and laughter, trying to distract from the tension that loomed over them. But as the clock ticked closer to midnight, a sense of foreboding enveloped the room. Joseph's grip tightened around the hilt of the enchanted dagger, its presence both comforting and ominous. As the hour drew near, the atmosphere thickened, and an icy chill swept through the room. The soft, eerie sound of a balloon squeaking echoed through the house, sending shivers down their spines. When the clock struck 12, a silence fell over the town. A silence so heavy, it felt as though the world itself was holding its breath. Suddenly, the door creaked open, and there he stood, the clown. His face, once painted in cheerful colors, was now a grotesque mask of malice, eyes glowing with a dark, unnatural energy. He moved slowly, savoring the moment, his presence saturating the air with an overwhelming sense of dread. He reached for Peter, who stood frozen in terror. In that instant, Joseph sprang into action. "Get back!" he shouted, lunging forward with the dagger raised high. The clown's gaze snapped toward him, surprise flickering in his glowing eyes. Joseph didn't hesitate. He drove the enchanted dagger into the clown's chest, the blade igniting with a fierce light as it pierced the spectral form. For a moment, time seemed to freeze. The clown's smile faltered, horror washing over his face as the magic from the dagger began to unravel the dark energy that sustained him. A scream erupted from his lips, a sound that echoed through the very fabric of Cold Hollow. Flames erupted from the wound, illuminating the room with a ghastly glow, and the clown's form began to disintegrate, turning to ash as the power that had held him together was finally destroyed. In the aftermath, silence enveloped the room. Joseph and Peter, panting and trembling, watched as the last of the clown's ashes scattered into the night air. The tension that had gripped them released, leaving behind an eerie calm. They understood that the curse had been broken, and the Barker lineage was finally free from the clown's wrath. As dawn broke over Cold Hollow, Joseph and Peter stepped outside, the early morning light washing away the shadows of the night before. They were greeted by a crisp breeze, and the weight of dread that had settled over the town seemed to lift. The townsfolk went about their morning routines, blissfully unaware of the darkness that had been vanquished. But Joseph and Peter knew. They understood that although the clown was gone, the stories of his terror would linger. The legend would serve as a warning, a reminder of the dangers that can lurk just beyond the veil of ordinary life. In the weeks that followed, the town gradually began to heal. Joseph and Peter took it upon themselves to share the truth of the clown's curse with their friends and family. They organized gatherings to discuss the town's history, ensuring that the lessons learned would not be forgotten. The tale of the clown became a cornerstone of their community, transforming from a source of fear into one of resilience and hope. As the seasons changed, the boys felt a renewed sense of purpose. They honored their ancestors and forged a bond that would carry them through whatever challenges lay ahead. Cold Hollow, once a town overshadowed by fear, began to embrace its rich history, celebrating the strength of the community that had come together to confront the darkness. Years later, Joseph and Peter found themselves reminiscing about that fateful night. They had grown into young men, and while the memory of the clown lingered in their minds, they knew that the curse had been broken. They had faced their fears and emerged victorious, forever changed by the experience. One evening, as they stood atop a hill overlooking Cold Hollow, they spoke of the future. "Do you think the stories will fade?" Peter asked, gazing at the horizon. Joseph shook his head. "I don't think so. As long as we remember, the lessons of the past will guide us. We'll keep the memory of the clown alive, not as a source of fear, but as a reminder of our strength." And so, the legend of Cold Hollow transformed from a tale of terror into one of unity and resilience. The bond forged by Joseph and Peter, strengthened by the trials they faced, became the foundation of a community that would never again allow darkness to reign unchecked. They would always be vigilant, ensuring that the past would never repeat itself. The clown may have been vanquished, but the spirit of the town remained unbroken, shining brightly against the backdrop of the misty mountains.